Hello everyone, this is the Founder Scoop. My name is Jacob Lee. Today I have with me Bryce Judy. Thanks dude for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
So Bryce, just give me an overview. What is your business at iHub?
Yeah, so it's called Tarriflo, and what we do is we automate import documentation. So everything relating to tariffs, executive orders, and how that specifically influences your SKUs, that's what we do.
Okay, dude, that is really cool. What on earth got you into this? That's kind of a very unique topic.
Yeah, it is. And actually, a lot of people ask us this because every conference we go to, me and my co-founder are the youngest there by like 2 decades. So,
Wait, are there conferences for like tariffs, or like what kind of conferences are you going to?
mostly like logistics for software.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yep. So I kind of got into this. In college, I got recruited to go to one of the big 4 accounting firms. And they had this new team called Trade and Customs. I was like one of the youngest guys there. I was just working during school. And there I got introduced to the whole world of international trade. I didn't know how regulated it was. I didn't really know what went into it. And that's where I got introduced to tariff classifications and everything that goes into that.
Was that like an internship then, or like how did you get that opportunity?
So I just went to like this networking event, met the recruiter. He's actually a good friend now. And he introduced me to their team, and it was a full position. So,
wow. Yeah. So that's really cool. So you got introduced to like the ideas and concepts and this whole new world, but what were you actually doing? Were you like, because it's a big 4, that's accounting, and you're not an accountant, right?
Totally, yeah. So they have like these different divisions, right? And so we were specifically working with these companies to classify their goods coming into the United States. So that was my job. So I would contract with like Dick's Sporting Goods, for example. I would get their product sheets. I would take that information and then build out these, both like what their tariff code should be, and that's just like the code that's needed to clear customs. And that also influences your tariff rates and regulation and everything. And then I would write up like this little report that would just be like all of the legal references. So if they get audited, that they had like a audit trail.
That's pretty cool. So when did you actually launch your company? Like, was it while you were there, or did it? Yeah, tell me what happened.
No, I actually never wanted to touch this space again.
Oh, really?
To be honest. So I left there, and then I started working in data, and I just like wanted to build cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was getting ready for a coding competition actually with my current co-founder. That's where we met. And we had planned to build out a system to automate what we had done in my last job that I had just left at that point. And we ended up, the competition was about something totally different, so we ended up not touching it there. But I started working in data science during the summer. And there I got exposed to a couple different frameworks that I could apply for this. We built an MVP during the summer, and starting in the fall, we had something that was fully functional.
That's really cool. Well, did you do any like validation? How did you know that this was a good idea?
Yeah, so there's
I mean, now it's pretty clear that it is a good idea with all that's happened in the world. But take me back to when you guys were like first ideating this.
Yeah, so basically there's this list of every customs broker in the United States. And so I called through a couple hundred of those over, a week period. And I was like, look, we built this thing. Would you use it? Like, because it'll speed up your process. It'll give you all the references still. And it's a pretty old industry, and there's a lot of pushback against AI in it. And so I got a lot of no's. But the couple yeses that I did get were like very like solid yeses.
Yeah.
Of like, this is going to transform.
Did anyone like pull out their wallets and just say, hey, I'll pay for it now?
I had one that was just like, he was just super excited about it. He like called me and he was like, yeah, this is it.
That's awesome. Okay, so take me back a little bit more, right? You said you never really wanted to be in this industry. Did you ever really want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I've always been doing pitch competitions and building MVPs and stuff, but I've never really like gone all in on something.
Yeah. So this was like your first big project then?
Yeah, first big project.
That's cool. Is your family entrepreneurial at all?
No, not really.
No?
Yeah.
So like what was the appeal to you?
I think it was just, I like the idea of creating something. Like being able to apply yourself, first off, to challenge yourself, and then also just like creating something that's new and useful for the world. And I think that was like my big drive, is I just felt like in the jobs that I had worked previously, I felt like I wasn't able to challenge myself and I wasn't able to really make a difference. And so this was like the first time where it was just, all right, like it's up to you. Can you make something happen?
Yeah. Well, okay, that is super cool. Let's fast forward a bit, right? You've already made the MVP. You've already called all these people. Walk me through what happened. Like how have you been growing your company?
Yeah, so I guess that was like August that we had the MVP. September, we started just building up the system more. And so starting like August, October-ish, we were officially live. And so at that point, we started growing our team a bit. So we had like a capstone program at Utah State. So we got a bunch of interns to help us like build faster. We started looking at kind of like different areas to start expanding this into to provide more data that's more useful for companies. At that point, we started getting hit up by a lot of venture capital firms. And we just turned all of them away. We're like, we're not raising. We feel like we're onto something, but like, we just want to bootstrap this.
And these companies were coming to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
you weren't advertising, right? Or how did they know about you?
Just mostly through LinkedIn. We were getting probably 20-ish meetings a week with venture capital firms for a couple weeks straight.
Wow, that's a ton. Holy cow.
Yeah, so we had them from all over the United States, the Bay Area, Boston, even out of the country a bit. So
I feel like that's a bit of validation as well, too.
yeah.
Right? You got validation from your customers, and then you have validation from investors as well.
So at that point, we decided, well, we were to a certain point where we were like, all right, we have something here. We knew with the Trump presidency coming in that there would be big changes, especially around de minimis, which is basically is making 1 billion more shipments per year require 10-digit HTS codes, which is what we automate. And so we decided to take on money. So we opened up our round, and within 2 or 3 weeks, we had it a little bit oversubscribed to what we'd planned on. And from there, we've just been growing. So we figured out that at this point, HTS classifications are great, but to take this to the next level, we needed to automate all of the documentation required to clear customs. So that's what we're working on right now. Is we're working on integration with Customs and Border Protection to actually be, integrated with their systems, be able to file and submit documents on the behalf of the importers. And then there's a lot of other data that we're working on. So we can do classifications to 20 other countries right now as well. And then we have, over 1 billion rows of data with non-tariff measures, executive orders, tariff rates. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. So walk me through what happened when Trump announced all the changes, right? What was that, like about a month ago? We had, what is it called again? It's, what did he call it? Do you remember?
You're talking about the reciprocal tariffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, Liberation Day.
Liberation Day, that's it. What happened for your business when that happened?
Well, I guess from the start of the year, things have changed significantly. So we had built our systems to be fully based on customs and the way that they're releasing things. So when Trump came in, he started doing executive orders that get released through a different...
Yeah.
So it's like a different chain of command, but it's still enforced by customs. And so we had to go and map out all of these temporary restrictions. And there's a lot of technical like mapping that there is. So for a specific product, it might get from a specific country, it will have a rate, and then we'll have a reciprocal rate, and then we'll also have these other rates that either get stacked or they cancel each other out. So we had to map all of this stuff out. So it's been, from a technical perspective, it added a lot of complexity to us. But from a business standpoint, it opened up so much opportunity because not only was this a problem, from us, and we were in the weeds with it already, but all of a sudden every company that's importing to the US, they don't know what their bottom line looks like, so they can't make any financial forecasting. And so when you can't do any long-term planning, the second best thing is to have accurate real-time data. And that's what we provide.
That's awesome. Would you ever consider moving into the forecasting industry as well?
Yeah, so our latest update is supply chain scenarios. So you can look at the impact of reshoring to different countries and what that impact it has on your bottom line.
Well, that sounds really useful considering the circumstances. Well, that's awesome. What else does your company provide?
So right now it's just up to that. So we can do the classifications and the rationale, and then we also do any like anti-dumping and countervailing duty flags. And that's just basically any unfair trade practices from other countries for specific products. The US will flag, and there's additional tariffs on top of that. So in order to clear a good through customs, you have to have the description of the item, You have to have the HTS code. You have to have any of the temporary restrictions flagged out, anti-dumping, and then you have to do these things called PGA flags, which are like from each agency specifically. And so there's just tons of data mapping here, right? And then all of that data, we encode it and we send it to customs in order to clear customs for them. So that entire process, normally you're not able to do it for under $300, $400. It's pretty expensive because everything's so manual right now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, someone has to go and do all the research for you for each of these spots. So what our system does is it automatically does all these things at a higher accuracy rate than what a licensed professional can do.
That's amazing. Like, and I imagine it's a lot quicker too, right?
Oh, significantly, yeah. Yeah, classifications, especially when it gets in the weeds, you can spend easily upwards of an hour.
So what is your what is your pricing model right now? Like if someone wanted to sign up for Tarriflo, how much would it cost them?
Yeah, so it's like a tiered pricing model. So, you know, if you have 500 SKUs you're managing, it's $2,500 a year. Get all of your codes, you can do all the forecasting, you can get weekly reports for any updates. But as soon as we're able to do the customs clearance as well, it's going to be $100 per customs clearance as well.
Okay, nice. Well, that's quite impressive, dude. Good work. What's your long-term vision for Tarriflo?
Yeah, so our long-term vision is to be a customs clearance and freight brokerage platform between any countries in the world. So it can be your first time ever shipping something, and you can have all of the regulatory compliance documents done, all of the customs clearance done, your freight booked end to end within 5 minutes.
Holy cow, dude. That sounds amazing. Like literally, it sounds like any business that has products ever will need your business.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's transition a little bit, right? We're here at iHub right now. Tell me about your experience. What has it been like working with iHub?
Yeah, so it's been really cool. I found iHub because I saw a LinkedIn post about it.
Nice. Comes back to LinkedIn again.
Yeah. I just showed up here one day, and I was just looking for a co-working space, honestly. So I found out they had free co-working space, and I was like, heck yeah. So I moved in here, started working. That's when I met Corbin, the iHub team, and Corbin's been a great mentor to me. And then just the energy here has been amazing. I think at a certain point, you just need to be heads down working, you know? And when you have people that are doing the same thing, you can bounce ideas off of, you can share successes with. It's like a really cool community here at iHub.
You know, something that a lot of entrepreneurs that have come on the show have shared that, it's lonely being an entrepreneur.
It is.
And so it's really cool that iHub has this community where everyone is working together. Like everyone understands what it's like, even if you're in a completely different industry. Like we definitely have that community.
Yeah.
What role has mentors played in it? You mentioned Corbin Church has been a big mentor for you. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I think I know I wouldn't be to the point that I'm at right now, and the company wouldn't be to the point that it's at right now without the mentors that we've had. So all of our investors, and I have a lot of just personal mentors as well that have just helped so much, both understanding what the long-term goal of this is, everything from, the technical parts of starting a business and running it to just, how to approach it, how to balance being an entrepreneur and, living life and, finding that balance there. I'm just so grateful for everyone that's been a part.
That's awesome. Well, what what's probably the biggest obstacle that you've had in growing this business?
In my industry specifically, it's very technical. So not only is there massive amounts of data that need to be consolidated and models built on top of that, but also we're kind of chasing a moving target. So, there are updates in it. The industry's older. So it's a difficult industry to break into because the barrier of entry is so high, for one. And then just personally, I guess, it was a massive leap of faith. I dropped out of college. I was living, off of nothing for months, just flipping furniture in the evenings to be able to pay rent. So it was like a big leap on that front as well. And, you get certain days that you're just like, I don't know if I can do this, is this going to work? But
yeah, was there any moments where you just thought about just giving up?
I've had a couple of moments, yeah, but It's funny because you have days like that, and you have days that you're looking for houses in Park City because it's like we're blowing this thing up. So I feel like the highs are pretty high and the lows are pretty low.
Yeah.
But something I don't know. I just love the saying. It's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of pushed you through those moments, the lows, the lowest of lows for you?
I think just like reminding myself that I just love doing this. Like that, I'm just so grateful to be, first off, in a country that we can even like be in the game, right? Like we have just so much opportunity here just to be able to like envision something and be able to go build it and try. Like first off, I've learned just so much in general. Like this has been like the greatest education I could ever get. And then second, like the experience and the relationships that I've formed. I don't know, just like recognizing how big of a blessing it is to be able to do this.
Yeah, I feel like, especially here, like there are so many resources. We have so many blessings to be a part of this community. Like it's definitely helps in those slow moments for sure.
Oh, totally.
What advice would you have for someone who is just starting out or is kind of in the validation process of their ideas?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest validation was building something that solved a pain that I experienced. So, I mean, obviously I went and called a ton of people to get external validation as well. But I had personally done this for over a year. And I knew how tedious it was, and I knew how big it would impact just my team if we would have adopted it. And so I think for the first step, it's, get exposed to the pain point that you're solving. It's hard to build something if you don't understand it. So go do it by hand. Go work for somebody for a couple months and do this by hand so you fully understand the pain point and the problem that you're solving. Because that makes it, if you're able to solve your own pain, then you're solving somebody else's pain as well.
Do you have other business ideas that you want to pursue after this?
Yeah, I've got a long list of business ideas I want to do. But yeah, most of those are just kind of in a journal and, one day probably pick them up.
Yeah. Do you ever intend to sell Tarriflo and then pursue another idea?
Yeah, I think it's really, like I know the value of what we're building right now. And if somebody offers me more money to buy me out than I know the value of it is, I'll probably sell.
Yeah. What's your timeline there? Like if you wanted to sell, when would you want that to happen?
I mean, really, I'm just going to keep building to what I know it can be. And if an offer comes, and it's better than what I know it is, then probably take it.
Yeah. Something you mentioned earlier is like one of the biggest difficulties in this industry, in the tariff industry, is just there's always changes. Mm-hmm. So do you have a system for meeting those changes dynamically?
Yeah. So, for example, this year so far, there have been 11 HTS revisions published. So every couple weeks, I think every 2 weeks, there's been a new one published. And each one encompasses several executive orders. So in each one, there's like, anywhere from 2 to 10 changes at least. So there have been a lot of changes so far this year. So we had to build out a system and a pipeline to automatically detect when a new revision has been released, go scrape that data, map it on top of our current database, check all the changes, apply those changes, rebuild our systems to be able to classify to the latest changes, and then pull in the tariff rates for those latest changes. So it's a pretty complex pipeline to be able to get all of this time series data. And but now we have it running. It's pretty self-sustaining, at least for the U.S.
That's awesome. How do you keep up
with the changes?
Yeah, with all the changes.
Yeah, I think, well, the thing that we've approached this differently than most people in the industry is a lot of people just have 10 data collection people on your team, and they're just doing data entry all day. They're just checking for changes, doing data entry. But for us, we built the systems to build the systems. So instead of focusing on just doing the work, we focus on how can we make this so we can do the work once and it's hands off from there. And so I think building from the ground up with that perspective, we're able to build something much larger with a much smaller team.
So in order to do that, what kind of experience do you have? Like, how are you able to do that? Especially since you just dropped out of high school or college.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of just web scraping, database management, building like these ETL pipelines, and we use a lot in like AI, deep learning, machine learning. So kind of the biggest way that we apply the latest techniques in AI is not as much on, the user facing with the chatbot, but it's actually in how we parse the data. So this is why this problem hasn't been automated up to this point, because there's so much unstructured data that it's impossible to do without having people that are doing it by hand and mapping it to real data until LLMs came in.
Right.
And so we actually use that as part of our data flow to take these hundreds of thousands of documents and provide structure to them.
So which language models have been the most useful?
I mean, we use all of them, just whichever ones are best. We do have like the AI startup grant for Google, and so we use a lot of their models.
That's awesome. Yeah, tell me about that. How did you get that grant?
It was just through a random connection emailed us, and they're like, hey, you should apply for this. And we ended up getting, I think over the next 2 years, we have $500,000 worth of credits for compute, which has been
That's huge.
super
Holy
big
cow.
for us, because we're able to just focus on making everything as accurate as possible, getting our databases and our flows like really dialed in without having to worry about the compute that we're spending right now.
What other funding have you guys gotten?
We raised our pre-seed round. We closed that in January. It was mostly like an angels round. We did have a couple of venture capital firms join in that.
And all of them came to you, right?
Most of it was inbound. Yeah.
Did you work with iHub at all with the Impact Fund?
Yep. So the Impact Fund is one of our investors. So we're super happy to work with them.
That's cool.
Like I said, Corbin's been just a great mentor for us.
I bet you mentioned earlier, like you like participating in pitch events. Like how has that helped you in getting all these funding?
Yeah, so actually the biggest pitch that we won was just recently. We won like the Utah Entrepreneurship Challenge. So it's the top university-based startup in Utah. And that was really cool because we had another round of venture capital firms reach out again after that, but we had actually already closed our round by that point. But it did play a big role in us getting a lot of connections that are able to drive our future revenue.
That's awesome. Do you look to continue raising as you grow?
Potentially. Our goal is to be seed strapped, and we think with the funding that we've raised up to this point, we're going to be able to just move forward from here.
Yeah.
But obviously, if there's a massive potential for, being able to capture the market by taking a lot of external funding, then we're definitely open to it.
Well, dude, thank you for joining me today. Do you have any final last words for our audience?
No, I don't think so. It's just really, figure out the pain points that you're trying to solve and go solve them. You're never going to know everything up front, so just start building and you'll figure it out.
Sweet. Where can people go to learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, so to learn more about us, you can go to tariflo.com. It's tarifflo.com, or you can check us out on LinkedIn or Instagram.
And what's your LinkedIn, by the way?
It's Bryce Judy.
All right. Everyone go check him out. Go check out Tarriflo.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you, dude.